Hey y'all, so I've been doing this thing where if a thought comes into my mind and I want to capture it and I don't have my pen and paper or I'm not in front of my computer, that I leave myself voice notes. And I recorded one the other day in the car and I wanted to share it with you. It's been coming up a lot in the work that I'm doing for myself and also in my client work, but more so the self-work that I'm doing and I'm tackling. So I hope you enjoy this 7-minute car talk. Heads up, there is some cursing in this, so I would not listen with small children. Enjoy this bonus episode on suffering. So I've been exploring this lately, thinking about it, unpacking it, discovering what it means to unravel in our suffering as humans, in our scarcity, in our uncertainties. And I think so many people try to make this journey of self-love and self-care and self-awareness like this destination, this end point. You start here and you end there, but that's just not how it works. And in this work that I am trying to spread in the world and just shout to the rooftops is that we are constantly learning, we are constantly students, and the minute we decide we have arrived, we have become, we are done evolving, we lose sight of the process. There is no end to this. And I don't think people want to hear that shit. Like, people want to hear that there's an end point, that after our breaking open, there's a mending that happens, and the mending is it. Like, after we mend, like, that shit is sealed, and that's just not the truth. And if I was to tell anyone that was the truth, I would be lying. That's not the truth. The truth looks like constantly breaking open, constantly, and discovering how we can mend ourselves through those breakings. Because in life, we're constantly greeted with bullshit and things that hurt us and things that make us feel like we're never going to get up again. But the point of that, the lesson in that, is we get back up again. Because if we don't, we die. So it's so interesting, like, unfolding into the suffering and being okay that the suffering may not ever stop in the way that we think. It may go into hiding. It may camp out in the back of our minds. It may give us a break from time to time. But the only way we're going to be able to live fully and alongside our suffering is if we acknowledge that it is there and that it can come back in any moment. And the work that we do in between the moments of our suffering is how we're able to move through the shit that fucks us up and the shit that hurts us. That is how we can not control our suffering, but or combat. I don't know the word I'm searching for, but we're not trying to silence the suffering. There we go. We're not trying to silence the suffering. We're trying to learn how to simultaneously be our best selves in the midst of things that hurt us, in the midst of things that make us feel like we're suffering, and we're never gonna unfold into the mending, because the mending and the suffering go hand in hand. And that's something I've been talking to my clients about, and also just as I grow into the person that I am growing into. I wish there would be no suffering ever. I wish that we could break open like one good time and have our shit just spill out in front of us, and our heart and our pieces just like spill out, and then we don't ever have to experience that again. Like, that's the most hurt we're ever going to be, or that's the most pain we're ever going to experience. But that's not, and I know no one wants to hear that I'm going to be hurt again, or you're going to be hurt again. You know, grow through it, mend again. You know, like, sometimes shit gets fucking old. Like, we don't want to keep mending, but that is a part of life, is the breaking and the mending and the suffering and the solution. So if you're able to suffer, you are also able to find a solution to that suffering, even if, and this may sound really privileged, so let me just backtrack a bit. Like, I do believe that sometimes we can escape our suffering just by changing how we think. But I know that suffering is so much deeper than like the emotional side of things, right? It can be living in poverty, it could be joblessness, it could be homelessness, it could be an immense amount of different things. And to tell someone that their suffering can be, you know, mended may sound super privileged and just like nonsensical. But if you think about it, you know, there have been many of people who have had those types of life experiences and are now on the other side of that suffering. But that's not to say that they're not suffering through something else. So yeah, the suffering never stops. And I'm becoming more okay with that. I'm becoming more aware that, you know, it's all about swimming through it and moving through it and getting to shore again. And that's a part of the evolution. It's a never-ending cycle, you know. It's so interesting just to see some of the language that floats around social media and that just floats around our circles. Like, you know, self-love is the ultimate goal. Okay, cool. But then what else? Like, what's after self-love? Like, how are you going to implement your self-love tools when you feel like you don't want to live anymore? Or when you feel like your heart is so broken it's never going to be pieced together? It's like, that is where the self-love comes into play. The learning how to move through the hard shit. That's the self-love. You know, not the glory of it. The glory is great. And it's nice to touch and it's nice to like see from time to time. But the glory isn't the end goal. There is no end goal. I feel like the intention should always be manifesting new ways to heal through the stuff that hurts. Because stuff is always going to hurt.